are on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe people. We wish to recognize the long history of the Indigenous people of Canada and show our respect for them today. We recognize their stewardship of the land. May we all live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship. Thank you. Well, welcome everybody. You have your agenda in front of you. You'll follow along. Just before we move into the agenda, I just wanted to let everyone know that Ellen has joined us for another year, so that is official. So Ellen, welcome, and we look forward to working with you the next year. So that's great news. Did you want to say something, Becky? You hit your hand button. Your hand was waving.
No, it was clapping. I was clapping.
Oh, okay. That's fine. I understand. I thought it was waving at me. I apologize. My sincere apologies. Let's move on to number 2, additions to and the approval of the agenda. Did anybody wish to add anything or make any changes to the current agenda this evening? Okay, in that case, we need a motion to approve our agenda for this evening. Would somebody like to make that? Thank you, Becky. Seconded by John. All in favor? Thank you. Number 3, are there any declarations of pecuniary interests or conflicts of interest? I see no indication from any of the board members, so let's move on to number 4. We have two sets of minutes for your approval tonight. The first set we'll look at is the March 8th, 2022. And would you take a moment and have a look at those minutes? If there is anything in those minutes that we should alter or change or additions to be made, please just put up your hand and we can discuss those. I know you've all had an opportunity to read them over before this time. Any questions in regards to our minutes from March 8th? It appears that everybody's okay with these minutes. Can I have somebody make a motion to approve the March 8th minutes? Thank you, Becky. Seconded by?
I can.
Sure. Thank you, Shirley. And all in favor? Thank you. Please move on to the March 22nd meeting minutes. I know they're very brief and very short, but we still need to approve them for the record. Is there any questions in regards to the March 22nd minutes? Okay, I needed somebody to make a motion that we accept the March 22nd. Thank you, John, making the motion. Seconded by? Somebody wave at me. Thank you, Shirley, and all in favor? Thank you. That motion has passed. Business arriving from the minutes. John and I were just discussing one, and I know Ellen and I discussed it last week. In the previous minutes, we discussed the public space surrounding our library and looking at policies in regards to how the property is used. So we just wanted to bring that back for a moment. I don't want to speak for Ellen because Ellen did share some of her research last week. So at this point, Ellen, I'm just going to turn it back to you for a moment. Would you like to share with what we talked about last week in regards to the outdoor use policy?
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. So we've done a bit of an investigation. So what I did is I sent an email asking about this issue to all CEOs in Ontario. I received no responses. And I did a bit of investigation. So I would go into libraries who I knew had good policies and try to look. I went into libraries with outdoor spaces. And so no one seems to have a policy pertaining to this specifically. What I did kind of hit on later last week was that the school boards, at least our Avon-Maitland District School Board, does have a policy that we may be able to adopt a bit into our meeting spaces policy if the board so wishes. And maybe we can look out a little bit further into some of the municipal spaces. But so far it's been, there's no real precedent that I can find set for this type of thing yet.
Thank you, Ellen. Any questions of Ellen in regards to the policy?
Any word, Ellen, from the municipality in terms of how they look at their space?
Not yet. So they did take something back to council with the action that we were probably going to amend our policy and that we're looking at doing that. So I know this originally came from a council meeting and I know that's what was presented to them.
Okay, and is the south side parking lot, is that factored into our policy decision, or is that a municipal parking lot? I'm not totally clear on that. Do you know?
So as far as I know, John, it's a municipal lot.
Okay,
We
so
don't have responsibility over it. Yeah.
okay, so we're just talking about the rotary park at the front, basically.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
Thank you, John. Leanne, would you like to share something?
Yeah, we did meet last night, and it was the issue was discussed around hosting a market at the front of the library, and council has decided that through our discussion with It Takes a Village for this particular example, and it was offered to provide this opportunity at the small park kind of across and beside from the library. And forgive me, I forget the name of it.
It's the
Dalton
Livingston
Park?
Park.
Sorry, Livingston Park. That's right. So it was passed last night that that would be the space where this activity would occur, and the municipality has set some, parameters and policies around that for the usage of that park and for this event to occur. So it is not going to be on library property. However, I would basically encourage our board to look at some policies for the usage of this area because it could come up again, and it has been used without our permission. So probably it's something for us to look at in the future in terms of some policies. So that's my thought for sure. Thanks.
Thank you, Leanne. Leanne, would we be able to see the parameters that the town is establishing for this market? Would they be available to us as a public information?
Yeah, it's in the agenda actually for yesterday's or last night's meeting. And what was proposed in the agenda was approved. Basically, it requires the person or the company to have a vendor's permit and some insurance to do this market activity across the road at this time. But all the parameters are in that agenda were approved.
Okay, thank you. The other thing I suggested that Ellen and I maybe look at when you rent space or use the facilities at, for example, the arena, they have a very clear set of guidelines. And I was thinking we might be able to access some of those guidelines. There might be bits and pieces we can use to build our own policy for the public space in the front of the library as well. This will continue to be an ongoing thing that we're working on. I know Ellen has started doing the exploratory work, and we'll come back to visit this as a board in the next likely couple sessions. So thank you. If you have any more input in terms of the public space, please share it either with Ellen or myself. We'd very much appreciate it. Becky, go ahead.
Just a thought. I was going to talk about this later, but I signed into the spring meeting for the Ontario Library Service today.
Yes.
And they were talking with a lady from Meaford. She's on the board at the Meaford Library, and I guess they just revamped. It was the old grocery store in Meaford, and it's now the library. And she was talking about that the town took part of the parking lot and made it like I don't want to say it's like a park, but she called it a parkette, I think. So that's just a small park. But I don't know, Ellen, if that might be worth contacting someone from Meaford to ask how because I think there might have even been, I might have heard wrong, but I thought she said like a barbecue or something. I could be wrong on that. But anyway, it sounds like it's quite nice apparently, but I just thought I'd throw that out there. Maybe someone from their library has any input on that.
Thanks, Becky. Well,
Yeah.
we'll add that to the list of things we can explore to develop our own policy for our own public space. Any additional comments before we move on to our next piece of business, which is number 6, our financial reports? Okay, let's move forward. Last week, we established a kind of a guideline policy that if you had questions in regards to accounts payable, we would appreciate that you send that question ahead of time to either Ellen or myself, that we can get, or Ellen's staff, to provide clarity, that we're not stumbling with this. Tonight, I say let's make an exemption if anybody does have a question, because this is a whole new thing for us. But in the future, the idea is to notify either of us of questions in regards to the accounts payable, so we can provide that answer. So we're not sending Ellen back to get clarification from staff. Are there any questions in regards to the accounts payable, which go from January 1st to March 31st?
I just have one quick one, and sorry, I should have sent this in earlier. Just on the
Go ahead,
very,
Becky.
the last page before the general ledger, it's just a Severia Sis. It's $624. It says maintenance renewal.
They'll just take us to that page. Just hold on.
Yep. Right there. Sorry. Yep, right there. It's in the middle.
And it's maintenance renewal.
Yeah.
Okay, can you give us any clarity on that, Ellen?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. So that's actually our lift renewal license
Oh.
in the listable space. So like last month, a lot of our maintenance items that our facilities costs now are showing up on our accounts. So
No,
that's an
that's fine. Yep.
annual, yeah.
It just
And
was
I
an
did want to
interesting
point out,
name.
yeah, it is. I know. Every time I get the invoice, I scratch my head a little bit. But yeah, we got our lift certified this year.
Thank you,
And if I
Ellen.
could, Mr. Chair, I did want one more clarification here for our accounts. You might see again some Moncton propane accounts showing up here. As you will recall, last year we were still being charged a few propane costs as they started to look at what to do with the old Moncton space. This has been followed up with. Finance and facilities are aware of this, and we should no longer see any more propane costs. It was something I thought was resolved, but I guess snuck into 2022 too. So I just want to make sure that the board is aware that that is being resolved.
Thank you, Ellen. Becky, you have another
Sorry.
question? Go
I
ahead.
keep meaning to ask this every meeting we have, and my Alzheimer's kicks in and I forget. But what's happening with the building in Moncton? I thought it was supposed to be declared surplus a while ago.
We declared it. I'm sorry, but 2 years ago, we as a board released it back to the municipality through a motion. I can go back and check that.
Yeah.
Leanne, you had your hand up. Did you want to add something to that?
Sure, I can clarify that. It is no longer part of the library board's, building. It's part of the municipality, and there is some local interest in the building, and the municipality is in negotiations with different, interested parties at this time. I can't give you any further information at the moment, but there is some work behind the scenes around looking at the usage of this building, whether it's to be rented or sold, that kind of thing. Okay.
Thank you, Leanne. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we need a motion to approve our accounts payable that extend from January 1st, 2022 to March 31st, 2022. Becky's making the motion, seconded by John. All in favor of approving it? Thank you. We're going to move on to our period 3 accounts. It's the first 3 periods of the year. It's our general ledger. They're several pages long, and there's a great deal of detail here. I've often thought we should almost have somebody come in from finance and walk us through all the information here. I've gone through them. I know Ellen has. I will say this: if you have any questions, we will try our very best to answer and provide clarity. I can tell you this at this point, after going through them, we are in a very good financial position. And at this point, Ellen, did you wish to add anything to what I've said?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I do want to point out that these accounts are going to be in a real flux state all year as the municipality changes GL codes. So what really stood out to me in the accounts is that there are no wages indicated that we've paid any this year.
I caught that too.
We have paid everyone's wages. It's just that that's the first thing that they've pulled over to the new GLs, so it's not mapping to the way this report gets presented. But we are on track with finances as well in terms of paying staff, but it's not showing up in this report.
And this represents the first three periods, period 1, 2, and 3 of 2020. Is that correct, Ellen, how I'm phrasing that?
Yes.
So at this point, we're only a quarter into our budget year. Any questions in regards to our expenditures as of this point in the year? Okay, this is not for Ellen. The last time we did this, we did it as an information item. Do we still hold that as an information item?
That would be my recommendation.
Thank you. We'll be moving on to number 7, our Friends report. I turn this to Becky. Becky, is there any updates that you wish to share with us?
Not tonight. We are meeting on the 25th of April. So at the May meeting, then I'll have more of an update for you. So.
Well, I'm going to write that down now, Becky. I'm scheduling you for the May meeting.
Yeah.
Thanks, Becky. I appreciate that. Board development. Ellen, anything at this point that you wish to share in terms of board development?
Just a little bit. I did want to assure the board, although it comes up later in the agenda as well. I have reached out to the Ontario Library Services to kind of come down and maybe do a half day with staff and the board members in terms of the vision, mission, and values statements as part of the first step of the strategic planning. So we're looking at May 13th, the morning of May 13th for that date. So if you're available, please let me know. We're going to provide lunch and treats. So it'll be at the fire hall as our floors get refinished in Listowel. So we had to close anyway. So we'll take a whole day for staff and half the day for the strategic planning.
Okay. That's terrific, Ellen. Do you have a time for that yet?
We're hoping from 9 to 12 on May 13th.
Oh, that's great. Any questions in regards to our work session on the strategic plan on May 13th? Hopefully, we'll be able to have most of the board attend. I realize people also have employment commitments that might conflict.
I know I will not be able to attend, just so you know.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know, Bernice. Well, please take a moment and have a look at your calendars, and if there is a problem, please let us know and we will see what we can do. I had one piece I wanted to share with it. Ellen shared the, I believe it's the tentative organizational structure for the municipality of North Perth. And I remember when this was shared with us over a year and a half ago, and they have removed the library and the whole library setup from the organizational structure of Listowel. We stand as an independent entity outside the structures of the Listowel North Perth organizational structure, which is questions we had, because remember we questioned how can we have a CEO when there's another, at that time they were using the term director over top our CEO. So now, according to their structure, what Ellen shared with me is we would stand as an independent concern, and we would not be part of the programs. The manager of programs would not oversee our division. So I just thought I'd share that with you. Ellen, when does that go for approval, or has it gone for approval yet?
I can't say that timeline, Terry. I know it was shared at the managers meeting, but.
Okay. Well, I know we had a conversation about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, about where the library would sit in the structure, the North Perth structure. And this one looks fairly good. Maybe Ellen, you could share that with other board members as well. So. Any questions in regards to the two things under board's development we just chatted about? Well, at this point, we'll move on to library updates. We have a number of updates in regards to our policies. So I'm going to turn this over to Ellen at this point. We have 2 policy recommendations, and I'll let Ellen explain. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I kind of lumped them together in the policy recommendation report. But you'll recall in December, we did update our operating policy number 3, our loan periods and fees for service, in anticipation of going fine-free this year. And the fine-free announcement was delayed a little bit as we waited for all Perth libraries to have that approved in their budgets for 2022 to go fine-free, so we could do it together. So what this policy does is it just cleans up those changes that have happened between December and the actual launch. And the yellow is new and crossed out, just some clarifications, and staff pointed out just some wording that needed to be adjusted. And some items that we have since added have been added to the chart. Things like our maker kits which are imminent, so they're not quite yet out for lending, but we wanted to make sure we didn't have to bring this back again to the board to add that. And we have park day passes now. Most Perth libraries do, so we've added that. So these fees are across PCIN libraries. Yeah, so that's that policy.
Thank you, Ellen. I'm just going to ask if anybody has any questions in regards to our fees for service policy. Go ahead, Leanne.
Hi, thanks. Through you, Chair Terrence, to our CEO. I have a question about, it's on page 23, and it's in paragraph 3. It's highlighted. So again, it's page 23.
Is it as of?
I'll give Ellen a bit of time till she finds it. It's right there. Yeah, it's right there on the screen. So in paragraph 3, it's highlighted. Patrons' information will be sent to the unique management system when fines exceed $50. I'm assuming you're adding that. Is that why it's highlighted?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And I guess, is that like a collection agency type thing? Is that what it's for? Okay. All right. And I guess we still have some fines, right? So that's why it's still there.
Yeah, and fees too, Leanne. So if books go missing or they get damaged, that'll be part of that fine system. I could put fine and fee there if that clarifies it too.
Okay, yeah, that's not a bad idea. Fines and fees exceed $50. Okay. I think that's all I had for that part. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. Any additional questions of Ellen in regards to the fee policy?
I was kind of curious, Ellen, and maybe, well, I'll ask the question anyway. There was a point where I think one of the libraries was against fines free. I think it was Perth East. Any idea what changed their mind?
I can speculate. So the idea was, I think, that the library board and council wouldn't be in favor of fine free. The library itself was quite supportive of the movement going this way. Okay. They were just worried about it actually passing. Okay. So they were the kind of the last one we were waiting for, but we didn't want to go without them.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, John. Anyone else? Okay, Ellen, we're not going, we'll recommend, we'll do both. I'm sorry, did somebody just wave? Oh. We'll go on to the second policy, policy number 10, the library and political elections, before we do a motion to recommend these policy changes.
Sounds good. Through you, Mr. Chair. So this policy is brand new. That's why nothing is highlighted. We had a previous policy in governance referring to use of corporate resources for election purposes. And it referred to a municipal clause that is since defunct. And we are actually required under the Municipal Elections Act to have a policy that addresses these things. So that's what this policy does. And we had to have it before May 1st. So we got it done quickly. It's kind of an amalgamation of what I found really effective and Hamilton Public Library policies, the West Perth Public Library, and the Ontario Library Services example policies. But we skewed it a little bit to our own values. And we kind of picked and chose little bits of that policy. So it just kind of outlines how the information is presented in our library and the restrictions on it. There is still a reference. You'll see there in 3.1. That was the carried over reference where we could find from our governance policy that this is replacing. So we still kept that applicable reference. It just is not its own policy anymore.
Thank you, Ellen. Any questions in regards to our political elections policy? And this policy applies to both employees, board members, and the use of the library.
Just through you, Mr. Chair. So I took a screenshot of the PowerPoint that we had today on the meeting for the Ontario Library Services. So I'm sure you CEOs must have had a meeting too. So yeah, they just brought that up to everybody that was on the meeting to bring up a policy like that. So I had it screenshotted. So you're way ahead of me.
Thanks, Becky. Anyone else? Bernice, did you wish to share something or were you clapping? I'm sorry, Bernice, your picture's so small.
I'm sorry. No, I was clapping because I thought game on. Well done, Becky and Alan.
Okay, any other questions in regards to either policy before we ask for a motion? Well, we'll need a motion that the North Perth Public Library accept and approve the OP 03 loans policy and fees for service policy, and the OP 10, the library and political elections policy, and any indicated changes that we made during this discussion. And that would be in regards to Leanne's comment about fees and fines. So that will be the addition. Becky, you're going to make that motion. May I have somebody indicate they'll second it? All in favor of the policy changes? Thank you. That moves. We'll move on to 10.1, other business. And at this time, again, I dump on poor Ellen there and I ask her to do the branch updates for us. So Ellen, please.
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. Well, this is the fun bit. I get to tell you all that we're getting back to normal. I think you can see and hear that our staff are really busy. They're working on their partnerships and they're getting back into the community. Our book clubs are going again and we're planning for this summer. And the things we're doing seem to be really resonating with the community, as you can see in those community comments. Staff would love feedback if you're finding these reports helpful. It's a bit more in depth than our reports last year, with a little bit more data and a little bit more numbers as we look at more of that digital space as well. But what you can see too in our chart of stats compared to February, in some places we're nearly double our checkouts, and some of our stats are really rebounding well. And we're really happy to see that. And we're seeing it in the branches. We're finding patrons are being extremely respectful of our masking friendliness in our libraries. We have had very little, kerfuffle over that. And that's been really easy to manage some of those changes because of it. It's really happy to see. I'm looking forward to seeing the library in a normal way outside of COVID, because I haven't quite yet got to see that. So we're bringing up furniture. We're letting people linger. We have people even in our Moncton and Atwood spaces returning as well. So that's the good news.
Thank you, Ellen. Any questions in regards to the branch updates?
Ellen, I had a question regarding stats. Certainly, it's important to keep track of usage. I'm just thinking, if somebody walks into the library and they may just come in to read a newspaper and quietly walk off to the side, sit down to do that, are you keeping track of that? Is there someone actually counting and watching for that?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so we do. We have somebody, usually the main desk staff person. So in Listowel, it's usually the person who faces the north door, keeps track of the stats. I know in the past there was a people counter, that was largely with a lot of errors. So we find just actually manually counting people, and that'll be our traffic number, John.
Okay, and that must be a real challenge some days when you're busy with other things, and I guess you could miss the odd person, but
Yeah.
not the end of the world if you did. But yeah, it's so obvious. Perhaps I never think to ask that, but I guess it's happening, isn't it? It has to happen.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. Any additional questions or comments? I noted that I like to see that the library offers a mentoring service for young librarians. I didn't realize you have student librarians present in the library from Confederation College. I thought that was quite nice. It's nice to see that we have people still interested in the world of libraries. So thank you, Ellen. Ellen, do you want to move on to the work plan, please?
Sure. So I know there's been a lot of conversations about strategic planning, and I alluded to this earlier, but I did want to remind the board we did pick some plans up last year. So we do have a collection plan, programming plan, technology plan, and accessibility plan that we're also working through. So because it was kind of the first quarter, I wanted to present where we were in those plans. Just for information and just to show you too that we have started about 60% of these goals. A lot of them are ongoing concepts, but some of them are finite. So I can bring this back every quarter to the board as well, updating the plan, and we can make a longer spreadsheet. And just to keep you updated as we continue with our strategic planning process as well.
Thank you, Ellen. And it is nice to see what is happening. I appreciate that. And this is for the board's information this evening. If you have a moment to take a quick look at it, please. I know you've likely looked at it already before you've arrived at the board meeting tonight. Any questions in regards to the work plan? It seems like you're quite busy, Ellen.
Yes.
Actually, I have one question. So the hours in Moncton changed. Wednesday is evening now, right?
Yes.
So was that was that resultant of something, or like staffing needs, or?
Yes. So we were trying to get back to the service level hours, and we did a community survey about hours. And then we also, in the winter, aligned with what was happening in the arenas at the time.
Oh, okay.
So on Wednesday evenings, it was North Perth community using that arena. So we wanted to align as best we could with what's already happening.
That's great. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Well, again, thank you, Ellen, and thank your staff for all the hard work. It's nice to see that we're moving forward as we come out of the pandemic. That's a nice sign. As we move on, there is no in-camera session tonight. We had temporarily put it in there in case we needed it. So we will be moving on to part 12 of our agenda, where we'll need a motion to close our meeting this evening. Becky's making the motion that John seconds. All in favor? Thank you. Our next meeting, just for information's sake, I believe is May 10th. Is that? I have it written down here. I'm looking. I don't have my lights on. So, Ellen, is that correct?
I think it's in June, Terry.
Oh, is it June? Okay.
We're
I
skipping
apologize.
May.
I had written the second Tuesday in May down. So I look forward to seeing
14th.
everyone in June.
Leanne. Before we go, is there also an opening in June for the Moncton Library?
It was written
That's
up in the minutes of the last meeting that June would be celebrating on the weekend of the 165th anniversary. Is that still a go, Becky?
Yeah,
24th
it's
of June.
June 24th, 25th, 26th.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what day did you select? What day have we selected for the
I
opening of the
assume it's
library?
the Saturday, the 25th. I would assume.
25th?
Yeah.
It's the Saturday.
I think that's what we'll be talking about as well at the Friends meeting, because I know we had allotted some money in the Friends to, like, Sherry had booked some entertainment, a clown, I think, or balloon person. So we'll be talking about that next week. But yeah, I'm assuming it's a Saturday morning. And I think the library is kind of going to be open for a span of time that people can walk through and everything.
And I assume you would like the board there in support of the opening, Becky?
Sure,
Good.
weather permitting.
Weather permitting. Hopefully we're
I guess the
inside,
library
Becky.
can be open anyway, right? Yeah.
That's good. Any
Yeah.
questions of Becky in regards to the opening, grand opening of Moncton Library? I should have moved this into other business. I
That's
apologize.
okay. And actually, if we're not meeting in May, I can maybe send out a quick email after our meeting, because we won't be meeting till just 2 weeks before that in June. So
That would be much appreciated, Becky.
no problem.
I
Go
just
ahead,
want-
Leanne. I'm sorry, and then Bernice.
Have we had an actual grand opening for the Moncton Library yet or not?
No, we
No.
haven't.
No. With the mayor and such, know that, right? No? Is that kind of what the purpose of this will be? A
Yeah,
big
I believe
grand
so.
opening?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Version of it, I guess, yes.
okay.
Bernice, you wanted to add something?
So the meeting in June would be on the 14th, is that correct?
That's correct.
I'll be absent for that.
We'll need a note from your mother.
Okay. She thinks I'm taking off too often anyway, so she'll not be happy writing that note to you, Terry.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, things we need to share with each other before we end this meeting? Because there is a bit of a gap in between this meeting and our next meeting. So if there is any issues or concerns anyone has, please get in touch with Ellen or myself. And if we see a need for another meeting, we would always call it. I appreciate that everybody attended the last meeting. I felt bad for calling it on the 22nd, but it worked out. So everything's running smoothly. So that's terrific. I hope you all have a good evening.
Oh,
Have a happy Easter. Don't eat too much chocolate.
Terrence, one
Yes.
thing for the meeting, maybe in June, I would really enjoy getting together as a board, maybe over the summer or as an informal social thing. So I don't know if we would, or you folks would discuss it. I could possibly try to sit in on the meeting actually in June. I'll be in Canada. I'll just be in St. John's. So
I think it would be a terrific idea if we had an opportunity to get together. We cannot have a board meeting. We always must have a formal board meeting like we're having tonight, but certainly afterwards, if we wanted to do something or on another occasion, get together for a drink or something, we can do that. But as part of the Library Act, our meetings have to be public, and I don't think we want to have something at somebody's house and open it to the general public. So I suggest we.
forgot about that. Sorry. Okay.
Are we still on, by the way, Sarah?
I am not. Just 1 second.
Thank you.
And is that schedule still correct that we go from June to then September? We don't do July and August. Is that still correct? Okay.
Yeah. We've got tentative dates, Becky, if they're needed.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
what they were chosen for in the last meeting, just in case. Because remember, we did have some scenarios that we thought
Yeah.
we might need the board
Okay.
to be able to respond to.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I would just be away in July if we were having one. So just wanted to be.
I'll need a note as well.
Yeah, historically, unfortunately, when earlier on when I was on the board, we tended to have to meet in July and August, but I think things have been going